What's up, Rockstars? Welcome to my review of Kabula. This is definitely something that surprised me, and that might surprise you. I'll let you know why right now. Now, as always, before I get into everything, I want to give a huge shout out to my patrons and YouTube members. It is through their financial support that this channel is possible, and all of these videos are made for you guys. I have done a video every single day, along with my regular job, along with selling this house. I am doing all this work for you guys, so if you appreciate it, at least leave a like on the video. But if you can even give $1 a month to help support this channel, I would greatly appreciate it. It might seem like a little bit to you, but it actually is a lot to me. It adds up, and I thank you so much. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump right into things. Now, I'm going to give a quick overview of how you play the game because it's pretty easy to explain, and then we'll dive into the review. I'm not going to zoom in on any components or anything like that because, at the most part, you're just going to have to listen, and I'll hold up so you say, okay, this stuff over there, or something like that. So, what you do is you pick one of your characters. Essentially, Kabula is, I guess I'll give you a little general idea. Kabula is an island that's like in a different world that you're kind of sucked into somehow. You're from the real world, and in this island there is the Kabula, and it allows everything to just get revived if it dies. You just respawn. Nothing dies. You live forever. So you can just kill, anything you want. And you're kind of a terrible person because you're from this world. And so you're like, shoot, that sounds like a really cool thing. I want the Kabula. So your job is to kill the Kabula who's guarded by the herald. Now there are multiple of you going on out here. In this case, I have it set up for 3 players. And what you do is on your action, you can spin body parts. So you have stuff like mouth or guts, or food, or mind, or a butt. And you use those as kind of like a resource to do different actions, whether it's to move with food, or whether it's to do a defense with a butt, or whether it's to do an attack with a guts, or, whatever it is. You just kind of assign it, and you go around until eventually you hit an end turn, and then you end your turn. You can rest to move your resources over there. And what you're trying to do is become popular, because as you gain hashtags on 3 different personality traits, eventually one of them will get 3. You flip it over, and now you are trending, which means they'll allow you into the area with the Kabula, and you can actually steal that for yourself. Now, once that happens, there is no more respawning. Death is permanent, and obviously the herald is very upset with you, and so it will come and give you a reckoning. If you can defeat the herald and still have the Kabula, you win. If not, and everybody dies and nobody has a Kabula, then everybody loses. That's pretty much the game. That's what you're doing. You're going around and doing different actions. There's encounters, there's dungeons, there's cities. You're interacting with each other. You're interacting with these monsters that can become your familio. That's kind of like a Pokemon thing. You got to defeat them in combat, and then you can actually gain them and use them as kind of like essentially another character that can do a lot of different things. Meanwhile, you're gaining tokens, and it's a whole game around that, but that's really the gist of it. There's a few specifics, like at the start of every turn, each herald has its own deck of unique actions that is either the first thing that happens that round or the last thing that happens that round. You know it going in, especially the last one, which is kind of interesting because it means you can plan for it. And so either way, you're going through there and they're doing different things, but then once you steal the Kabula, they turn into essentially like another monster that just does kind of their different attacks. You flip coins to see what attack they do and who they target and what all the actions are. And that's really it. You're going through encounters, you're trying to get that trending stats on one of them. All of your personalities have a unique ability on them that you get to kind of use, and I'll talk about that in a little bit in more detail. And in fact, I'll talk about most of this in a little bit more detail. So let's go ahead and jump into the review portion of things. And I must say, starting out, blanket statement, this has a lot of tough decisions in it. I was actually kind of surprised when I first heard about the game, saw the map, saw the few amount of components. This is everything. This is everything but 2 other player boards, which could easily fit there and there. I'll talk more about that later, but like what you see is what you get here. So like this is not like there's more miniatures and standees for the other people that I don't have out, but you don't need them all out at once. But it's really kind of interesting because you're pulled in different directions because you have to do different things. So it's your turn to make your actions, and you get to choose whatever it is you do. And let's say I am Jessica and I started on the blood tower. Now, right away, I could go and do an encounter here. I might have to pass a stream here, so that might cost me some extra movement points. And if I do the encounter there, I can flip it over, I can draw the encounter card, I can do that. Maybe it's good, maybe I get attacked, maybe I gain some money, maybe I gain some parts, maybe I gain an item, maybe I unlock a thing, maybe I get a little bit of a quest where I keep the card and then I can go to a different location. A lot of things could happen there. And then after that, then there is that roaming monster that I can essentially provoke into attacking me and then attack back. So I could maybe then do that. Maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe I want to come over here because then there's one here plus a dungeon. I can start doing both to get the dungeon, get all that. But I just started out. I'm pretty weak, so maybe I don't do the dungeon yet, or just the level 1 dungeon, not the level 2 dungeon, because I want to make sure I have better equipment perhaps. Or I just want to get some items, get to a town, and sell it. And that's all I want to do because I need the money. Or, I can go and actually try and get the familiar, because if I get it earlier, that means I have more parts than other people. That means I'm already getting hashtags. That means I'm getting all this stuff that's really, really good because I need to be able to get the Kabula. And, even when you're making these decisions, like this one here, the struggling for good, I need to get hashtag generous or hashtag nature lover. This one, I need hashtag creepy or hashtag violent. And this one, I need hashtag lazy and hashtag delusional. So I'm looking here and I'm saying, okay, well, a plutonium bar will give me a nature lover, but the scoundrel egg will give me violence. Maybe that's what I want to do because I need to, you get special skills on this, but only if it has at least one hashtag on it. So you're tempted to kind of spread the hashtags to get more abilities, but then at the same time, you need to get 3 on one. So if you spend 3 to get on different ones, well, maybe you should have done it all on the same one if you could manage to do that. So there's a lot of that kind of push and pull and what I want to do on my turn. Additionally, because stuff can attack you when it's not even your turn, right? There's area of effect attacks, other people can attack you, stuff like that. And resources are used in defending, so maybe you don't want to use all of your resources, all of your body parts quite yet. Maybe you want to hold off on that. So you don't quite do everything you could do. Or maybe you make sure that your last action is just to rest so you can reset it all and you do that. Maybe you need to start moving over towards this area, but you also really, really want to get the encounter here so that other people don't, so you can get that stuff, whatever, hopefully good stuff you get out of it. And then, so maybe go the long way there. There's a lot of interesting things that can happen. Maybe you know that the last card is coming up. For instance, I had the Herald once. It's the last card. This was our first game we played. And, it was essentially whoever has the most items. He's like, how much crap do you need? You shopaholics. And, I was playing, where we were tied. So we both had 4 items. And we're like, okay, so that's not good, right? Because it says attack both. Like the ties are not broken. He'll just do it to both of you. So not good. So what did I do? I used a healing item. It was kind of a waste of a healing item, except that I didn't get hurt. So it means I didn't have to use it later, and it only affected him. Plus it made it to where it moved to him first, so it was farther away. And so there's some strategy involved in a lot of this, a lot more than I thought, especially when it comes to wanting to do everything on your turn. I wanted to sell, and I wanted to explore, and I wanted to dungeon, and I wanted to get a familio because I could get that last hashtag, and I wanted to be closer to the Kabula so I could steal it quicker and easier. I wanted to hurt my opponents so that they weren't in a good position. So once the monster or the herald did start fighting around everywhere, that they were hurt. There was so many options available to me that I was actually kind of impressed. I didn't get AP at any time, but the reason I started with this is because it's kind of the longest point, but it's probably the one I want to stress the most is everything you see here is a decision point. Everything you see here is good and something you want, and your choice is just where to go. How do you want to do it? You can win several different ways. You can get hashtags from encounters. You can get hashtags from dungeons. You can get hashtags from familiars. You can get hashtags from even maybe some certain items or skills and stuff like there's a lot of ways to get popular, to get trending enough to get to that end stage. And sometimes you want to hold off on it. Maybe you're not ready yet because once he flips, he's coming after you. Like these guys are no joke. So you're going to want some good weapons. You're going to want body parts to use those weapons. You're going to want abilities to do that. And, I think that's something you should definitely look out for. Now, another thing I wanted to point out, so this is probably my next positive, is that the game, I felt, is sufficient. There's enough variety in here, I think, for, especially when it comes to characters and items, the combination of that, to get a unique feel. And what I mean by that is it's not just that, oh, I've played Jessica, so I've already played that character, because Jessica can play different based off of several things. First of all, her personality will change. For instance, you can be one where you're just attacking all the time, or one where you're not attacking all the time. And so that's two very different things, right? Either that's completely different play styles even. But then on top of that, you can get these combos and these things. Like, for instance, the first weapon I got was like this grenade launcher that even hurt me. It just blew up everybody. A huge amount of damage, a great rare item. And if you are running with that with Jessica, it's a completely different feel than if you're running around her with something else. So for instance, I had this big hammer thing. I'm not going to there's a lot of jokes I don't want to, like, I want you guys to experience a lot of this, so I'm not going to read all the names, because even some of the names, for example, if you attack the Water King and you roll that you targeted the butt, so there's a little butt there and you targeted that, the defense action is why there. That's the name of the defense action. Like, why there? So, and he like reacts and he comes back and attacks you, and, anyway, it plays a lot different because I actually got this little combo. So this hammer has an ability where I can spend 2 resources to attack with it. Okay, that's pretty normal, especially for a strong one. Or 1 resource if it's raging. So you have a hero rage, a hero fresh, and then used. And so you can essentially move things up, which is kind of nice sometimes. For her, every time after resting, I get to move one of my tokens into rage. So I was able to move that token into rage every time I rest. So every time I rest, I have a cheaper way of using that weapon. So this kind of went hand in hand. This was a very good combo for her, because I could do that plus all the normal escalations that you get to do with it. Essentially, if you attack and you don't do any damage, well, you get to escalate something. So you can either move something from fresh into rage or something from used back into fresh, so you can use it again. It allows you to still get something even if you kind of had some bad luck. So yeah, if they defended against it, you didn't do any damage, well, okay, I'll raise this. Now I have a raging butt. Which is a thing in this game. Hard to talk about this game without sounding like an idiot. So I might sound even more like an idiot than normal, but it is what it is. So I felt that the variety there was actually quite good, even with just the core characters. Now, obviously more characters would be better, but for now, I'm definitely satisfied with that a lot. Now, another thing is the variety of encounters and items, especially these two. So the encounter deck is already quite large. As you can, this isn't even all of them. I didn't pick them all up. And the item deck is honestly quite large too. There are some repeats, but for the most part, you're not shopping anything crazy. You're drawing 4 cards or something like that. I drew 6 once. It's actually pretty good when it comes to shopping, that you don't get a huge amount of like, oh, there's 3 potions and a weapon. Right? I haven't gotten that. I have gotten that in other games. So really like the variety right out of the gate, even in this prototype model, which isn't even the full thing, to have the encounter and the common items as big as they are, combined with the players being able to, each person kind of acts differently. So for instance, this guy here, the nerd, starts with a slingshot. He can attack 3 spaces away by default. That's huge. Especially because one of his things is, did you not move? If you didn't move your turn, you get something good. Now you need to get a hashtag on that, but once you do, you can just stand there and start sniping stuff. Anybody that comes near you 3 spaces away is pretty good. And so there's a lot of times where you can double dip like that with him. Whereas with Jessica, like when I played her first, that was a little bit different because she can move a lot more than he can. But she's also melee only, but also quite aggressive. Most of her things are for attacks. So she's charging in and attacking and then getting benefits from that. So they are using the same mechanics, but they honestly feel quite different. It was kind of nice to see how everybody acts. And again, you can kind of try, if you're not care about that card, then you don't care about staying still with the nerd. You can move around all you want. But there is a temptation, and you can do that kind of thing where hopefully you get an item that allows you to keep that range but still do more damage, and maybe you don't care about that because you're not even doing a lot of attacks and trying to do it that way. There's a lot of variety there that I think is really, really nice. So really impressed with the variety for sure. Now, I do think that the dungeon deck could use a little bit more variety. So this is the dungeon deck that I have. And there's a level 1 and a level 2 in each of these, which is nice. There's a fair amount, but when I think about owning this game and playing it over and over and over again, I can see many plays with the characters. I can see many plays with the counters and the items. I can even see many plays with the Familio, because you honestly don't go through too many. It'll take you about 3, maybe even 4 games before you see all of the Familio, to the point where you even get the other side of it, because they flip over. They have 2 different sides. They have the wild side and then your side. And so you're going to be having different animals each time, or different monsters each time. The heralds, their variety too. I've already talked about that. So it's really just, I think, the dungeon deck that could use more. Now, obviously, with games like this, where you're reading little bits of story and you have to pick between the two, you can only see that card so many times before you've seen that card, and you can just skip straight to the, I headbutt the protester. That's an option. Or I take the voucher, the other option for that. You don't need to read the whole thing. You stop reading the story. If you're anything like me, you've played these games enough, you don't keep reading the same story on this card, all right? So this card here, you have a little bit of story and then you make a decision, right? And after 5 times of doing that, you're not going to read it anymore. So the more they add via stretch goals or something like that, I don't know how it's going to end up. But there's a link below to the campaign, I'm sure, once it's available. I'm releasing this a little bit early, but if you're watching this during the campaign, you can click the button to go there if you haven't already and check it out. But if they're adding more content like that, huge plus. It just adds more replayability to this, which is definitely what you want. But yeah, no, more dungeon would be really nice. Really, though, I think the second highlight to me is the body parts. If you guys have seen my review of Wolfenstein with the ammo system, and I loved the ammo system in there, this is kind of the same thing, but mixed with more of like a Conan thing. So everything you do costs resources except resting. Resting is the only thing you do that just gives you back the resources. So if you're wanting to defend, if you're wanting to attack with a weapon, if you're wanting to move, if you're wanting to, I guess there's a few things here where, like in the city, you can also do some things, but for the most part, you're spending resources to do it, and there's specific resources, right? Everything has a little, like, oh, you want to attack with your crusher. Well, you're gonna need to spend a mouth. What I like about it is that it's a specific thing. I need the mouth. I don't just need a gem. Like in Conan, it's all just gems, which is nice and enjoyable on its own, and especially in its simplicity. But in this one, you need a specific one. If you have nothing but guts, well, you can attack with that. You should have watched what you use. So what you use is important. There are some that will take anything, which also can be helpful if you don't need something, but also means you need to pick what you want to do really, really well, especially if you know you need a move. Well, don't use your one and only food for that one. When you attack monsters, their health is actually in parts, and as you attack them, you take the parts and you gain them. So it's one of the best ways to gain parts, which means you're looking at the monsters to attack not just because of the hashtag that I mentioned before, where if you defeat them, you get the hashtag and you're one step closer to victory, but also the parts. And there's a legitimate idea or a legitimate strategy of just going around and killing them and not wanting to tame them. Or not even necessarily killing them, but just injuring them, especially because they can attack other characters that are nearby. So if you're ranged, you can go attack a guy there, skedaddle the way out of there with the resources, and now somebody's stuck with a familiar they may not want, they may not even have the hashtag that's attacking them, and they don't even need the one resource you left on that thing. So it's almost better to not kill it at that point. There's a lot of nuance there, but and you can gain them like from the events and stuff like that too. You can make decisions that'll gain you more parts as well. The parts system is very cool. In fact, when you do get a familio, one of the things they joke about is that you share digestive tracts. I think it even says gross in the rule book. You share the same resources. So this used is distributed to both. And both have a rage, and both have a fresh, and both have the same used. So you can figure out what they do because they have the same thing. Or if you want to do something, it's going to cost a certain body part. So you have to decide I could use that, but they could use it as well because they get their own turn. So after everybody's done doing their things, then your familial will get to go around and they can do things too. They can attack people. They can go and, essentially make, that was I think the biggest thing for me was just attacking other people with them. But they can do a few other things as well, attack other monsters and all that kind of stuff. They lack the social skills to like go shopping or something like that. So there's that too. But yeah, these body parts, really enjoyable. I quite liked them. I thought it was a nice mechanic that went really well. Now, one thing that didn't go so well, kind of. So these blue ones here are defense, and some of them are automatic. Some of them you have to pay a resource to use. And you can pay the resource to use them, and that's kind of nice, I suppose. But honestly, the defense in this game is kind of lackluster. Now, I didn't like that. It just never really felt great. I was not like, haha, I defend. There are a few that are really good. Like there's one where you can like actually move out of the way, right? It's an item you can get that essentially allows you to actually like completely nullify an attack, which is awesome. But for the most part, you're lessening the damage you're getting. You're not preventing the damage. Or you're like attacking back or something like that. In fact, the nerd has a joke defense that doesn't do anything. It's his bandana. It's called the placebo defense or something like that. Which again, funny. I get it. Hilarious. But also lackluster to use, right? You never do that. The defense kind of makes sense a little bit because for the vast majority of the game, you just respawn. You go back to the sanctuary, you just wake up. Oh, what? Okay. You reset, you get a free rest, so you reset all of your stuff, you go back to max health. The only real big bummer is if you have a familial, they go away, which is sad, and you cry a little bit. But besides that, it's not too bad. In fact, it might get you closer to where you want to go anyway, and there's not really a big harm in it for you. If you had some rage and you're going to use some rage and you died off your turn, that gets reset in a rest, which can be kind of a bummer. But for the most part, it's not that bad. So getting damaged and getting hurt isn't too bad. Plus, there are plenty of items you can heal. Each city has a location where you can spend some money to heal. It's fine, but I still never really felt a lot of oomph in the defense. And there certainly wasn't anybody I felt that was like heavily defensive. So that's just not the main focus of this game. It's all about attack for the most part. Now, the other thing that I thought was really nice, before we kind of move off to some more high-level stuff, is these hero boards. So these are really, really nice. I was quite impressed. They have a location for each thing, right? And obviously, I think dual layer would be awesome here if you can swing it, just because it can get a little full. This is a little rough because you can put up to 10 tokens there, plus the Kabula token, which is right here. It kind of stands for anything. It can even boost whatever you use it on. Use it wisely. But you can get quite a few tokens there. That there's a little bit of spillover, but for the most part, it's fine. But these are really nice. So you got a dial for your health that shows your max plus your current. So you can kind of spin that around and do whatever you need. You have your money. You can only have up to 15 for tax reasons, the manual says. So you can kind of spin that. And then you have your familial health as well. So these dials help prevent a lot of tokens. You don't have money tokens because you have a money spinner. You don't have health tokens because you have a health spinner. And it's really nice to be able to do that. Even the boss, again, has health. The enemies that you use, if you recall, use the body parts that you're taking anyway. So you're putting that on there just to take them, as it kind of does its health. So it's not an extra token. That leads to this kind of streamlined look that you see where I just have some body parts, I have some nausea tokens, I have a few coins I can flip, I have some familial tokens, some hashtags, and I just told you all of the tokens. That's it. That's awesome. I really dig that. I guess there's these that you lay at the beginning, which is your encounter / boss or / monster, and then your dungeon level 1 and level 2 that flips. There. Now I've said everything. That's it. It's really quite nice that they kind of streamlined it like that, and I really like this board. These styles, even in the prototype, work great. So really, really like that. I think that is quite nice. Besides the body parts, the nausea, and the hashtags, those are the main 3 you're using, and most everything else you don't typically care about, except maybe when you flip a coin to see what AI the enemies do. But yeah, that's what I get. And it's quite nice. I really, really liked it. It also led to a quick setup. I kind of mentioned this earlier about the table space and all that, but first of all, the table space is quite minimal. I think you could play this on a smaller board, especially if you weren't playing with 4 or 5 people or something like that. But if you're playing 3 or less people, it's not that bad. You know, you put this up, and I'd have a person here and a person here, and take up almost no more space easily, especially because I don't necessarily need everything on here. It was just really, really impressive. Everything is close. I can kind of see everything, and it sets up quick. Again, you put the mat down, you pick out your character who has their info, equipment, and 3 of these. You put that there, you lay those out, you lay these out, you lay the tokens based off the numbers, you're done. There you go. And whatever herald you put goes in the middle. That's it. You've now set up Kabula. It gets to the table quick and easy. I was kind of, sometimes, especially with these prototypes, because I don't get a storage solution really with these, setup can be kind of a chore. It can be kind of a bother. Like, sometimes I don't even want to record the review because it means setting the game up again because it can take that long. Not the case here at all. Easily, yeah, I could throw it on the table in minutes and then get to be playing just like that. Really, really nice. Really liked the setup here. And again, that's all thanks to that kind of streamlined approach that they have here. Now, with that, another negative. Using the body parts is nice. Going until you get an end of turn is nice, which means if you want to attack, and you have 10 tokens here, yeah, okay, I attack. Hey, guess what? I attack again. Oh, guess what? I attack again, and again, and then I'm going to move, and then I'm going to move again, and then I'm going to shop. And now my turn's done, right? So it can take a while before you get that end turn mechanic, depending on what you do. It could just be that your turn is, yeah, I rest. Your turn. I'm done. That could be it. So it can be really short. It can be a little long. It can get a little worse though. This is, I think, where it really stood out to me. This is when I was like, okay, I need to kind of mark this as a negative because I know some people get affected by this. I did to a degree. So I happened to be going first in the first game that we were playing. So I kind of reset this up. And then I got my familial last. So as you get the familial, you put them down here, which means I was going first. And then somebody else would go eventually, and somebody else, and then their familiar would go, and then their familiar would go, and then eventually mine would go, and then go to my turn again. So my turns were like together, which means I kind of had a little bit longer turns. However, it means I had to wait for forever. The familial can be kind of nice because it gives you another thing to do maybe before the end, so you kind of interrupt like if other people are there. But if you're on either end of that, it can be kind of long. Combined with the longer turns, there were a few times where they were doing stuff and they were doing stuff and it can be a little bit of downtime. The turns themselves still, even multiple attacks, they go pretty quick, but it is multiple attacks and you do have to roll and you have to do that. And you have to see the reaction. The reaction might be to move in a random direction. So then you roll the direction die to see where they do and then they attack you back. And then, so it can be a little involved or, they're going to do an encounter. So they're going to read this and then they're going to decide, I'm going to show them how it's done. I'm not going to place a bet. So then they read that, draw 3 and then keep and discard. Okay. So then it adds up, especially at higher player counts. So depending on when you get familiars and depending on how sensitive you are with the downtime, essentially, there can be some times where, like I said, defense isn't that big. A lot of times they'll roll, and because it's part based, so they'll roll the die, and I attack the mind. Let's say that. Well, I got nothing with the mind, so yeah, 3 damage. All right. There, that's the most interaction I had until my turn again. So that was kind of one of the bigger bummers for me was just how long that could take sometimes. It comes with the territory. It's not, again, there's no perfect game. And so I'm not sure I would be like, oh, you can only then use this many actions. Like I really like the open turn order. It's really nice to be able to decide, what you're going to do essentially and in what order you're going to do it and how many times you're going to do it based off their resources, not some arbitrary rule limit. So I appreciate that. And I like the order, thing for sure, especially with the familials. It can get kind of extreme though, depending on the situation. So there's that. The other thing that was really nice, and I only slightly mentioned this, earlier was the heralds, but I do want to kind of talk about them a little bit because they're a big part of it. The variety is quite nice, by the way. Even what I got here, there's 3, I've fought in 2, but they're quite good. So essentially they each have a deck, right? I kind of mentioned this, and they'll tell you as it first, as it last, and what they do. And they do different things. So like at one point he was like, oh no, they're drilling oil in the ocean. And you just, rush to there, and anybody who went through, he hurt, and he's doing something over there. Sometimes he'll go and attack a person who has the most items. Sometimes he'll, each one does different things. And so this deck was a nice variety. Additionally, each of them scale based off of how many players are playing, but they scale in their health and on what the Kabula is. But then they have these different attacks. You're essentially doing 2 heads or tails, so you can get 2 heads, 2 tails, or a head and a tail. Those are your 3 attacks, plus the defense and the reactions here. They have different mechanics that are kind of similar, kind of not. So for instance, the Water King here, he has one of his abilities where he can build up one of the guts essentially here, right? And then another of his attacks gets stronger the more guts are on the board. So the longer he lives and does that, the worse it is, which is kind of unique to him. Plus, of course, the attacks he's doing. If you get something like the Pepidolo, I can never pronounce the name. It's essentially a terrible demon stuck in a cat. He builds a lot because he has 2 that build actually, and that actually get bonuses from that. So it's really easy for him to get really strong really quick. You almost kind of want to burst him down if you can. The Pyro Horse, on the other hand, is laying fire everywhere, and so it's moving around and putting fire literally all over the freaking place for no reason except to show off to the girls. That's apparently his thing. And so dealing with him is a little different as well. The other demon has a little bit of fire, but really that's just the rage there, right? It's not actually laying down fire tokens. And so they feel quite different, and I was really happy with them actually. I thought that was quite nice. That was good. Now, I've spoken a little bit about the humor. I like it. I like the humor. It's funny. Some of the things are borderline dad jokes, which I appreciate. Some of them are honestly kind of humorous. The entire setting is humorous, right? Like you have the Scounder egg, which is, a little chick that's wearing its egg as a body armor that has a bloody blade and a kill count etched into his shell. Or you can play as a pregnant woman and have her riding a plutonium bar. That can be a thing. You can do that. So, like the theme already is pretty wacky, but some of the stories are just funny. I mean, and they're just ridiculous. Like there's one, I don't know if I can find it here. They kind of show it early on, but it's essentially where you're busy drinking and yeah, right here it says, after one too many ales, you run to have a pee. The rock below you suddenly starts talking. You are right on top of a stone giant. Talk to me, please, he says. I'm so lonely. You can be nice and have a conversation with him, or you can empty your bladder right onto him. So, there's some ridiculous stuff like that. How it words things is humorous, right? Like, it'll say, you were bitten by a snake for no reason at all. Rude, right? Like, there's stuff like that going on. So, it's wacky and it's enjoyable, and I actually really enjoyed it. My kids enjoyed it. It was quite a fun time, and we were having laughs, and we wanted to go and tell our younger daughter who wasn't able to play that all the story. Oh, this happened, and it can be quite silly. That being said, it can be a little raunchy too. Now, I'm not marking that as a negative at all. In fact, what I am noting here, it's not a positive or negative, is it's quite easy to remove the extreme cards and make this pretty okay for younger teenagers or even preteens. I think just fine. There's a few that have some heavy cursing. Again, you can remove that if it bothers you. There's some drug use. Again, you can remove that if it bothers you. There's some overtly sexual things. Again, you can remove that if it bothers you. It's actually pretty easy. Most of it's in either the dungeon or the encounters. There's a few items maybe. When I played with my kids, I removed a few items, and that was it. And then we were able to play and have a good time. I didn't have to worry about anything like that. It does mean you kind of have to go through the deck a little bit. So anyway, I know a lot of you guys have kids. A lot of you guys want to play with kids, especially something funny, right? Something fun like this that a kid can play. And yeah, totally easily done. not a problem at all. So you can remove kind of whatever makes you a little uncomfortable depending on who you're playing with and keep on going. And so I thought that was quite nice. One last negative before I kind of follow up on everything. This is a minor one, but it happened a couple times. So it can be kind of hard to find where things are on this map. There are a lot of named locations. In my opinion, they don't all stand out the most. Like this is a Blue Bluff Springs, but I guess there's a spring in here. I think there's a little bit of a lake, I guess, there. So I guess that's there. I don't know. So it doesn't really stand out necessarily that, like, okay, these are the docks here and stuff like that. And it's written always outside so that these are upside down, these are at an angle to me, and then these are at an angle to me, and this one's straight. And so there's no one way to look at the board to read everything. You kind of have to walk around as you're doing that, especially because you can't get items where it's like, go to this location and you keep this card until you go there. And so you're like, okay, where is there? And you're looking, and you're looking. You're like, okay, well, I don't see this. Then you get up, you start walking around, kind of looking for where it is. A few cards told me a general location, like near Blood Tower, something like that, which would have been way helpful in all of them, I feel, to give at least one other, prominent, thing I can look for. So, okay, I found Blood Tower, so I know it's near there, or something like that. Even finding our first game, and, you start on different locations, we're just looking like, okay, where is that school? Where is that at? That can be kind of a difficulty there. The other issue that I found with that is these. So these are used in certain sectors. Essentially, it's cut in thirds. It's like here, and then here, and then here. But the sectors don't actually match anything. So this is like the Bloof and Holy Ground. Okay, well, there's Blue Bloof Springs, and then there's Inver Bloof, and then there's Bloof End of Nowhere. So I'm assuming in this area, and then it says, and Holy Grounds. Well, there's no Holy Grounds. There's a Holy City, a Holy Brook Swamp, and I think that's it for Holy. So I guess it's this area here. I'm assuming it stops right. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, one thing I would definitely let the developers know is I think outlining the edge of the sectors would be huge, especially if you're not going to use the exact names. Even if you did use the exact names, though, I feel like this is of the harbor. Okay, well, there's docks here, and then there's Kabula Harbor, and then the ships. I'm assuming it's over there, but is it all of this? Does it go? I don't know. It gets kind of confusing, my opinion, especially when you have something like right here. You may counter right here. Is that this one or is that this one? I don't know. I'm assuming it's that one. That's what I called it. But it's just a nice little colored outline. Oh, this little yellow area, this blue area, and this red area. I'd be golden then. Because otherwise you don't know necessarily which one to do, and it can get a little confusing there. So that was kind of hard. So either way, the map, I think, could use a little bit of touch up. Just make it that much more readable, in my opinion. All right, so let's wrap this up. I was quite impressed with this. I went into this thinking it'd be kind of a dinky little game. No offense to the developers, it's just what I kind of went into it thinking of. It seemed like a goofy little thing that would maybe be fun a few times, and that's it. But I was pretty impressed with the meat on the bones, if on the mechanics, right? This is a pretty legit game. There's a lot to kind of decide on, a lot to kind of think over, a lot of variety, which is quite nice. As long as they add more variety, I'm telling you, like, if there's this kind of game, I always kind of struggle with a little bit because I will start skipping these cards. And it gets to the point where even if you're seeing new ones, it's not every single one new one. You might play a game eventually where only one of these cards was new and all the rest you've read before. And so the more encounters, the more dungeons, the more monsters, the more items, the more of everything you can get, the better. Of course, it just adds more to the game. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. This was actually pretty good. I had some great times with my family on this one. And I think what's important here is that I don't have another game like this when it comes to both the game mechanics and the theme. The combination of the game mechanics specifically, I have games are on a map and you're doing quests and you're doing different things. I have it where you're trying to like complete certain things to get to the end goal. I don't have those combined with the kind of the resource system like this. I think that was a nice pairing, and then combine that with the wacky theme that doesn't match anything I own, and it honestly, this deserves a spot on many shelves, I believe, because there's nothing else like it. You might be in the mood to play Kabula, and only Kabula can fit that need. This isn't another dungeon crawl. This isn't another dudes on a map. This isn't another, or it's the same fantasy setting, or it's slightly different, or, oh, well, this does this different, this activation different. There's a lot different here, and I really enjoy that, from the theme, from the mechanic combination, from just the style of gameplay, and it's easy to get to the table. This game is meant to be played, and that's awesome. So, yeah, I recommend it. If this has been at least intriguing to you in any way, I think you should definitely look into it, for sure. And I think you'll have a lot of fun with it. Again, there's a link down below. Sorry, my voice is going out a little bit at the end there. I apologize for that, but I've been talking for a long time. So time to wrap it up. Guys, thank you so much. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, leave a like on your way out, please, so that I know that this video was helpful for you guys. And I'll talk to you guys again really soon. Bye, guys.